Okay, so that brings me to a question. This is sort of an oddball question, but you in the beginning of the book, you mention a lot about how Tom's height and stature had a great impact on, sort of his inferiority complex, which you could kind of say. I mean, he's a small man. He's 5'7", I believe, on his best day. And David Miscavige, the head of Scientology, he is also he makes 5'5". He makes Tom look very tall when they're together. This is just a weird question my husband and I were talking about. Do you think if both of them were 6 feet tall men, average height men, that they would be as ensconced in Scientology as they are? Or do you think Scientology gives them the boost and the sort of shot to their ego that they need, that they wouldn't otherwise?
I think that's way too mechanistic. I mean, Tom Cruise was at the top of his game when he joined Scientology. He was, remember, Hubbard, when he was trying to bring in celebrities, he said, go for the up-and-coming or the old and faded. So that was his mantra. Now, Tom Cruise, when he joined, was at the top of his game. He had just done Top Gun, the biggest grossing movie of the year. He'd sold gazillion Ray-Ban sunglasses and leathered flying jackets and so on. He was the pin-up. And yet he decided to join this organisation that was, at that time, in crisis. Because the head of the founder, L. Ron Hubbard, had died. There was a schism inside this organisation. The taxman was after them. The IRS was looking for them. The various leaders had been in jail for wiretapping and bugging the government officers and so on. So, he joined an organisation in crisis. It couldn't. In many respects, they disguised it very well because someone at the top of his game didn't need to do that. Now, so he's a small man, and people say he's got that small man syndrome because he's extra ferocious, he's competitive, and
alpha male,
and you can see that at school. Miscavige, the same, if not even more so.
Kindred.
They're absolutely like blood brothers, and so in a way, Scientology meshes nicely into their existing personalities, but if there was no Scientology, Tom Cruise would still have been a big success.
Sure.
And Miscavige himself would have been a good salesman or something. He's got that kind of he's got that rapid fire speech of the tobacco auctioneer. So he would have done. He'd have been doing something. He once said to a senior Scientologist that if he wasn't in Scientology, he'd be selling laser art at the side of the road. So so he's obviously
high aspirations.
Well, he would have done well. I think one of the untold stories actually is the way that Miscavige, for all his faults, has actually dragged this organisation from the brink of collapse to an organisation that's spoken about around the world. And
that's interesting. Now, I have a question about that. Do you think Tom is aware of all the alleged abuses of the Church of Scientology, like you're talking about Sea Org members, which are essentially treated like slaves, and then they have the RPF, which is the Rehabilitation Project Force, for those people who are falling away from their faith. Do you think Tom is aware that there are people who are being sort of abused by Scientology, being disconnected from their family, their lives being destroyed, their livelihoods? And would it matter to him?
I'll tell you this. One of the things that when the next time he brings a film out and the Hollywood media do the profiles on him, the one question I would urge them to ask is, Tom, you're a family man. It's obvious that you love your children. How come you're so involved in an organisation that breaks up so many families? And it's the one question I'd like him to think about and answer. He would probably say, well, these are choices that people make, that the Rehabilitation Project Force, as they will argue, is something where someone who's fallen from the high ethical standards that they have go back for retraining, and it's a strict regime, rather like a monk or a nun, and they do that. And he would see it in that way.
Deflect it. Or make it
so many Scientologists who have said, both before the book and since the book, have come out with the kind of abuses going on, that certainly, as far as I can see, there's scope for a proper investigation. In fact, I've said to several people, are you going to do a class action lawsuit against Miscavige and the various abuses that you've been subjected to? And they've all gone, oh,
that's a good idea.
Interesting thought.
I thought of that. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm sure, we'll